everyone, and welcome to blog 53 of Tackle the Feelings Before the Behaviour. My name's Paula Taylor and I'm a psychotherapist. The main work I do is with families with kids under 5, and you'll see in my other videos I do a lot of parenting videos. Today though, I want to focus a bit more on my passion, which is emotions, and bringing emotions into consciousness. And now, consciousness means different things to different people, and I make no secret in my personal life and all that I'm quite a spiritual person, that I don't follow any organized religion. I respect people who do follow organized religion, but I'm a really spiritual person, and a lot of that is about the relationship we have to ourselves. And I'm very interested in the relationship we have with our emotions, because I feel that this is our primary guidance system, that our thoughts and our thinking and cognition, they get in the way of how we truly feel, of what we truly want, and the messages that we give ourselves about a certain place, situation, basically our intuition, our guidance, what's right and wrong to us, what feels good, what doesn't feel good, that comes from our emotional systems. And yes, it can be influenced by our thoughts and our behavior and other people, our environment, our experiences. But fundamentally, we all have emotions. We all have core emotions, which are the big whoppers, like the primary colors. We have the core emotions that have associated emotions. So we have fear, anger, sadness, shame, disgust, and happiness as our core emotions, and underneath those sit things like jealousy and frustration and excitement and anxiety and feeling upset, or grief and loss, and all the different expressions of these core emotions, which are all big and which are all valid and important. But these core emotions are what really make us human. We all have them, no matter the age, the eras that we've come from in the past, our ethnicity, our race, our sex and gender, our family systems, whoever we are as people. We all have emotions. Some of us are more in tune with them than others. Some of us have better relationships with certain emotions than others. But we all have them. We all feel. And we all get scared sometimes. We all feel lost. We all struggle with change and the impacts of change in varying degrees. We all get angry when our boundaries have been violated, when something bad happens. We all feel disgusted when something hits our moral compass, or when it's a really bad smell, or some illness that we're seeing, boils and vomit and things. We all feel these emotions. We all feel jealous from time to time. We all feel that we need a sense of control from time to time. And what seems to have happened is that we repress so much of what we feel and who we are, basically, and what we need, because of how we've been socialized, because of how we've been taught to express and experience our emotions. We don't know what to do with the big overwhelming ones, the ones we call negative. And Tackle the Feelings has two sort of branches to it, which is Tackle the Feelings Before the Behaviors is my business, it's my passion, it's my program, so to speak. It's a framework that I'm bringing out there, which is not new. Emotional regulation's not new, but I'm really wanting to highlight and emphasize the importance of being able to manage emotions, recognize emotions, validate our own emotions in others, but most importantly, to teach our children to emotionally regulate our young children, so that they learn these skills and we break all these cycles, these patterns that have been formed from not having these relationships to inherently ourselves, of not being able to honor our own emotional needs, of working through emotional neglect that's come through the generations from our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents. We haven't known what to do with children's emotions. We haven't known what to do with our own emotions, and it builds a cycle of emotionally illiterate people. And I see a lot of this in men, but women too. We all have, and myself, it's an endless journey trying to figure out my own emotional compass and my own guidance system. And that's why I say bringing them into consciousness is not, it's not about learning the different emotions theoretically. It's about learning how to recognize them in yourself, how to go about really incorporating those emotions. Because when we have repressed emotions, or we don't have a healthy relationship with some, or we fear certain emotional states, we tend to push them down, dismiss our emotions, lash out and project, and use coping mechanisms and secondary emotions like getting angry when we're really feeling hurt, or again anger when we're feeling ashamed of ourselves, or feeling guilty and sad or ashamed when we should be feeling angry or disgusted or afraid. We mix and match because of the relationship we have with certain emotions. And a lot of this has a core of fear. We fear our emotional states. We don't know what to do with them. And so teaching children how to regulate emotions and what to do with their emotions, and not to feel ashamed of themselves for feeling what they feel, even if they're doing something naughty, in order to cope with that emotion, like acting out and all that. We still want to say it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be scared. Not you have nothing to be scared or angry about, but yes, I see it, I hear you, I'm there. This is what we need to do instead. And so bringing emotions into consciousness really requires a lot of inner work. It requires you to look at your own trauma, because the reason you are not able to work really well with certain emotions is because somewhere down the line there's been trauma and you haven't been able to cope or experience those emotions at the time. And they start to become overwhelming inside you. And we need to be aware. We need to be aware of ourselves. We need to be aware of what emotions are getting to us, what emotions are not being expressed, what are we not releasing, what are we burying down deep every time it happens. Because we're burying. We get angry and we hold our lips and then we talk ourselves out of our emotions. No, we have no right to feel what we feel. Or someone else talks us out of our emotions, and the emotions don't go anywhere. So whether you're spiritual or not, bringing something into consciousness, being aware, being awake to yourself, is a personal, individual journey, but it is one that we need to go on in order to be happy. To be truly happy is not to be excited and smiling all the time. It's about inner peace. It's about when you have an emotion, it comes, it serves you, because they all have benefits. It alerts you to what's happening for you, what you need to do. And once you've got that message, it releases. There's no need for it to stay inside you, for you to harbor onto all these emotions and keep them buried within you. The healthy expression would be to let them be there as long as they need to, and then let them flow out. Now, I'm not an expert in this. I've got that going for some of them, and I've done a lot of work, and I've got to a certain level, but it's so hard. It's not something that just comes. It should. And that's why I advocate for working with kids to really, before we start teaching them that they have to feel ashamed of certain emotions and that certain emotions are frightening and not acceptable. If we get in early in those first 5 years with kids, I believe we can turn this around so that we don't have anxiety and lack of safety and unprocessed anger and sadness and all of that later on in life, where we're allowed to have a bad day, where we're allowed to be in grief as long as we need to, where we're allowed to feel angry and have boundaries and to be who we need to be, to feel what we want to feel. But that we also don't express that in destructive ways, that we don't push away the people that we love because we're misguided in how we're feeling. We're blaming all the time. We're putting ourselves in these positions where we feel, that it's other people's fault, that we're not taking ownership for how we feel and what we need. that we don't understand the consequences of our actions and things because we're so caught up in the emotion of the situation. We don't have that control. So it's about really being able to recognize the signs, knowing enough about emotions to recognize that when you're feeling powerless, it's shame. When you're feeling empty and numb, it's shame. When you're feeling really heated and frustrated and irritated, that's anger. When you're feeling really heavy and withdrawn and flat, that's sadness. When you're feeling really hypervigilant and restless and overwhelmed, that's fear. So really learning how to recognize the different emotions in yourself before they turn into anything, and knowing what you need to do for yourself in order to soothe that, in order to work with your emotions. Do you need to be by yourself and soothe yourself when you're sad? Do you need to meditate or take deep breaths when you're feeling afraid? Do you need to go for a walk and calm down when you're feeling angry? What is it that you need to do for yourself? Being okay with feeling what you feel and giving yourself what you need. And doing that before you start worrying about what to do in the situation and who you're angry with and all of that, but just taking that responsibility on yourself. Because when you're calm and when you're not triggered and working through a million emotions that are tapping into your childhood stuff and emotions that have been sitting in you for years and years because you've been harboring all of this anger about other things as well and all of that. And when you've got that big mass of emotion, you're gonna lash out. You're gonna be out of control in your behaviors and your thinking. So my message today is about really bringing your emotions into your consciousness, learning how you express them, learning about them, and start to work on those parts of yourself, those less than easy parts of yourself. Start trying to figure out where emotions fit in your own life. It's a good thing to feel, even though sometimes it feels terrible to be feeling shame. And you want to do anything you can. You want to drink and smoke and be on Facebook and be on Xbox and talking to friends and constantly being around people instead of being by yourself, or taking a sleeping pill and doing anything you can not to feel what you feel. I get that. I really, really do. But somewhere down the track, it's helpful to sit in that discomfort, to allow those emotions to be there and have faith in yourself that you can weather these storms. And the more you do that, the more you practice, like willpower, like exercise, the more you get used to it, the toughness of it dissipates. And you prove to yourself that you can do this. And your emotions can be a part of you without being so incredibly uncomfortable. And then they can process and release, and you can surrender to how you feel, and it goes so much quicker. And you learn how to work through your shit, basically. So excuse my French, but you do. So I hope that's been helpful, and Tackle the Feelings is going to bring a bit more of this into the work and the videos and the blogs and everything that I'm creating, because I believe it is so important, this relationship to yourself, to your higher self, or whatever you want to call that part of you that's not caught in the ego, the more objective part of yourself. You want to bring all that together. You want to flow. So I want to start working with you and helping you to achieve that as I'm working through this and aiming to do that for myself. So I hope that's been helpful. Have a wonderful week. Cheers. Bye.